there's beautiful art that's like super richly detailed that I like, and there's art like this, what you see before you, which is quite amateurish. And here's like another illustration from that era, and it's super terrible.
That's from
right?
the Player's Handbook. Player's Handbook.
Right. But there remains a charm to it that I think the more recent like fantasy art lacks. So here's like, the amateurish fantasy art.
Yeah.
That was published, 40 years ago or whatever. And let me give you an example of the more polished style that we call fantasy art today, which is like probably computerized on some level.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's obviously like more detailed, higher pixelation or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's amazing in some level, but it lacks something. There's some, I don't know. What do you think?
You know what it is for me?
What?
It's too detailed. Like your brain is like, there's nothing for your brain to fill in. There's no, oh, nice.
Nothing for your brain to fill in there.
Yeah, I know. Everything's all laid out.
Laid out in front of your face.
But look, I mean, this looks slick, amazing. It's great. But this is like listening to a Bob Dylan tune, right?
A Bob Dylan tune?
Like, I'm not a big Bob Dylan fan, but I'm just using that as a very
But
rustic.
I understand. Rustic. Yeah. So there's rustic, and then what would this be the equivalent?
This would be like the latest, probably
EDM,
metal.
EDM music.
Maybe EDM, but a lot of like new metal and stuff like that is very
it's like processed,
overproduced. Like the drums are like, quantized.
Here we are back in music again. I think it's, I think there's tons of parallels though between what's going on in the art world and what's going on in the music world, where the digital tools have kind of killed it a little bit because everything is too processed, too sanitized, too safe, too quantized, and so it lacks an element of humanity, an element of quirkiness or danger, or even an element of shittiness. There's something it becomes less relatable. It's made art endlessly replicatable. I mean, you used to have like photocopies, like, there's this pen and ink drawing right here, and we could make photocopies. We could print it up and distribute it. But when you had it,
or you would have to like which I've done when you're a kid. You got to find a really thin piece of paper and you trace it.
You trace it in a bright light source.
Yeah.
Did you ever make like a tracing table?
Yeah, I had
like,
a tracing table.
Get your mom's like a piece of glass. Get your mom's lamp and you put it behind. And like I used to make a tracing table at home. But you trace it by hand. It feels like the Middle Ages, and it was only like our childhood.
I know.
Actually trace it by hand. But
I know.
But there's something to be said. So in a way, you lose when it's digital. It's endlessly replicatable. You can take this image and you can email it to all your friends, and they can email it to all their friends ad infinitum until there's a zillion copies out there. And there's never really one copy. It's always just a facsimile of a copy that gets spread digitally. Right. But when it's non-digital, it's more like, it's a little bit more, in a sense, more precious because there's only one, like the physical in front of you. Right. And I think this about like vinyl records, and it's kind of clunky and clumsy, and like it's inconvenient that you can't walk down the street with earbuds in, holding a vinyl record player.
You could.
You could, but it'll skip all the hell.
Yeah.
So when you open the dust jacket on a record, you've de-virginized it. You've cut open the cellophane.
Yeah.
And it's opened. And it's a new thing now. You can play it. And there's not that process when it comes to digital. There's no sense of like, I'm opening this. Because everything's already open. Like you can hit a link or listen to a song that's streaming, but you're not opening it.
Yeah,
In a physical way. It's always open.
Yeah, and
it's always distributed or something.
Like, let's remember when we used to go to the Warehouse or Odyssey or whatever, and you would buy an album because you heard about it from like your older sister, or like, you know, you go and like, I want to buy an album. I don't know what I want to buy. And then you look at the album covers, it's like, oh, I'll get that one, you know? And like, you have no idea. Like there was no free, it's like, okay, here's a crapshoot, you know?
I mean, maybe if you knew the owner of the record store, he would play it for you. Would like at some used record stores, they'll be like, oh, you want to play this and see if you like it before buying it or something. But not if it's not opened.
There was a few, like North Carolina, there's a record store. I can't remember what it was called, but there was this dude named Eric that worked there. That's all I remember. He was like this long-haired dude that was in a band. And since I worked in the sport, like I worked at the sporting goods store, like in the same mall, I hooked him up with shoes or a baseball glove. And he's like, oh, here's this cassette. And he gave me a bootleg copy of Jane's Addiction's Ritual de Hello Habitual. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So I had that before you could buy it. He's like, don't play it for anybody but yourself, and don't, like, you know, because I get in a lot of trouble.
Really?
Yeah. And
that's
I was
cool.
like, oh, yeah, it was great. And then I like
Did
I
you
listened
keep
to
it?
and I was like, for a long time, and then I just totally don't know where it went. I mean, look, it was like the album. Yeah, maybe, you know. I mean, it's like at this point, people are like, how can I know that's not a cassette of like someone just, you know.
Right.
Copied of whatever, but again, it was like, what my point is like there was a sense of adventure when you opened up that de-virginized your album, or opened up that cassette or whatever. You had to be in a space, and you had to like, did I just waste $7?
Something we mentioned earlier, Daniel Johnston. So this is the cover for a cassette he put out in '83. Called Hi, How Are You, obviously. But that like frog-like creature, I think that was the original Pepe, bro. He could have made millions.
Really?
I don't know. It just looks like one.
Yeah.
But I just want to just play just a few seconds of this real quick. We used to do stuff like this too. Like, just recorded with probably a ukulele and a boombox.
Yep.
In his bedroom. He's probably, anyway.
I am a baby in my universe, I'll live forever. I am a baby in my universe, I'll live forever. Ooh, I'm only 22, I'll live forever. Ooh, I'm only 22, I'll live forever.
That's pretty much it. So it is a little haunting because he's like saying, ooh, I'm only 22. I'll live forever.
Yeah.
In that kind of, ooh, it's a little bit haunting. But he died. So he's dead. But I don't know. It reminds me of, go ahead.
Well, the thing is, like, what gives it that haunting quality is the really bad, like 4-track recording.
Exactly. It's very lo-fi. And I think, speaking to the charm of amateurishness, like if this was a digitally mastered, quantized, like pitch perfect recording,
it'd be terrible.
It would just not have any of this charm. And this recording is one of the things that sparked that lo-fi movement that like really got going in the late 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
But it just has that charm.
Yeah, the Fossex 4-track sparked that because, again, talk about democratizing music. That's really the beginning of it.
Yeah. That it's just you don't need a big $1 million studio.